Research, Mute 7. I'll let him talk a little bit more about that. But ladies and gentlemen, let's give a nice round of applause for none other than Rez Squatching Research team member Richard Soule.
Albert Einstein once said that the only source of knowledge is experience. And with Rez Squatching, we promote experiences that increase people's knowledge. And that's something that we're very happy about when we have people here. So I'd like to thank Scott for coming and sharing his stories. Some of those experiences just happened in the last 24 hours. So that's pretty cool. I want us to kind of take a look at what experiences mean in our lifetime and historically in our life. And a lot of times the things that have happened in the past have this kind of quantum entanglement to the present. And we have a connection from the past and present that sometimes is a surreal kind of experience. So what I wanted to look at is we tend to look at history in linear time, meaning birth, first grade, experiences you've had in your life. You look at it in a linear context. Taking linear time and looking at it differently, I was thinking, you know, how does God see this? Now, I don't know how God sees this, but in my own mind, I'm trying to think of a way that would be more encompassing than just this linear time that we have. So I took linear time and I turned it upside down and looked at it in vertical, from top to bottom, from life to death and all things in between. And when you're looking at yourself this way, it becomes more of a mosaic, and parts of your life now fit into these time frames and intersect. It's kind of like quantum entanglement. And quantum entanglement is if you take a particle and set it in motion, that those particles stay connected. When you're looking at your life this way and looking at time, these experiences you have in the past and the present, they coincide. They much easier connect, and it makes more sense if they're real in this living time that we're in right now. So I wanted to kind of get that concept out there so we can kind of think that way as I start to tell some stories that relate to the bioluminescent, some of the eye glow that we talked about. One of the terms that people use is eye shine, but I'm kind of take a scientific approach to it this way, and I'm going to use the word eye glow. And in the Omaha language, it's insta, which means eye glow. And I hope I said that properly, but Barry will correct me. So I'm using the term kind of insta as eye glow. Looking back in this model that I'm talking about, while I'm standing here, I'm looking back, and my experiences in the past are here in the present. 1979, I was in Elgin, Illinois, and my father had a house in a wooded area, kind of like some of the homes we have here, where you're just kind of back in the woods and you have nothing but, you know, timber around you. I was staying there, it was probably 10 o'clock at night, and I must have, I think I was like 13 years old. This house had been kind of Frank Lloyd Wright type house. It was windows, like plate glass windows from the floor to the ceiling. They didn't have any drapes or anything because it was surrounded by hundreds of acres. So we were used to just kind of at night just having darkness out there and kind of in this fishbowl. So I was standing there in the kitchen. Along the kitchen was probably a 3-foot window by about 20 feet wide. And I'm looking probably 50 yards where it's just dark timber. And I immediately start seeing 3 sets of eyes that are looking back at me. And I immediately asked my dad, I'm like, Dad, come over here, do you see this? And of course, in that time period, my father, whatever he would say, I pretty much listened to and agree with what he'd have to say. He dismissed it right away as owls. Those are owls in the woods. Well, even at that time in my life, I was kind of intuitive, and I really kind of questioned even what my father was saying. And at that point, it kind of stuck in my head that I'm going to accept what you're saying, because I really don't know what else, no other way to present this as something different than owls. So owls it is. I fast forward to 2012. Was invited to an expedition in Iowa, and Steve Moon, who is a BFRO Iowa investigator, had done considerable amount of work about eye glow. And he and Val, who was another researcher there, had taken pictures of what we call eye glow. And in these pictures, they were able to have some of the first photographs that really kind of brought out some of the features of what eye glow would be. A researcher, Tom Ruh, who is a physicist, was the guest speaker at that Iowa expedition. It would have been actually 10 years this month, in October. And Dr. Ruh had a unique view of what eye glow could be. And being a physicist, he was looking at it in a scientific model of how can we explain this. So he gave a speech about it, and he had a presentation. But before he did that, we went on a walk from what they call the bridge down this 2-track road, which is along the woods. And he played these whale recordings, which were pretty cool. And if you know anything about whales, they can do infra and ultrasound. So they have the ability to be above and below our own threshold of hearing. So myself and Paul Lane, good friend, one of the early people that had been involved with Rez Squatching with us. Matter of fact, he got me connected to Barry. We were walking this trail and just surrounded, engulfed by these whale recordings. Now, if you've heard whales before, they're just absolutely beautiful, but they're also ancient in the way they sound. So imagine the juxtaposition of being in the woods with whale sounds just kind of all around you. Well, that not only got our attention, and the one thing that we always did is we walked in the dark, which is basically what we do with Rez Squatching. We turn our lights off, we're out in the dark. After about 15-20 minutes, your eyes adjust to the dark, and you're able to be able to see things and just kind of be more observant. You're able to see where you're walking, that sort of thing. It's a good idea if you're going to do this, know at least some of the terrain you're going to be getting into so you don't get into trouble. But Paul and I are walking, all of a sudden we begin to see eye glow peeking out from behind trees. And we reached a point where there was we had the entrance of where we came in, and sure enough there was a sentinel there that was standing there and watching us. And for me, being the first time I was able to associate now something that happened in my past is now happening in my present. And my whole paradigm now had changed from this linear time to a vertical and a timeline in my life that were intersecting. And that was kind of an aha moment, and I think that's what happens to a lot of us when we're in that. So not only did I get to experience that, I got to go listen to Tom Ruh's presentation. And so today I'm going to tell you a little bit about the scientific explanations that he gave for what is what we call eye glow. Technically, he was from Washington State, so his reference was sea, like squid, fish, or jellyfish that were deep ocean and very dark water animals or fish, and they had what are called photophores. And photophores are light emitting organs, and they emit light for signaling, for for baiting, possibly baiting other prey to come in, and also for searching in this deep, dark water. And so this is a mechanism now that can be explained on what eye glow could be. Now, relating it to our hominid's eyes, it would be coming from what he explained as the sclera, which is the white part of our eyes. And so you would have these organs, either several of them or many of them, in the sclera, which is around the white part of your eye, which is around your iris. This light would be projected out then through what are filters that would change the color of it. And then and so you would have a series of cells that are filtered. Then you would have a series of cells which are lens cells, and these lens cells would project through the filters and would change the color of the light. Then you would have what are these photophores, which are these light-emitting organs. Behind them, you're going to have what's called a photochromatic cell, which will absorb light, so it's not going back into the retina. And then you'd have other cells of light in front of that that would push the light forward again. So you're not having any light projected back into the retina. All light is being projected forward. So these are connected to, in your eyes, they're a fiber that is connected to the optical nerve behind your eye. And it would be theorized that it's the nervous system that could bring oxygen to this and control it, along with the chemical reaction of oxidization. So when oxygen is a part of what's called luciferin and luciferase, the oxidization creates bioluminescence. This bioluminescence is then projected from this organ, and it's emitting organ called the photophores, and that produces this eye glow. That would allow them to see in caves. It would allow them to traverse areas at night that are very dark. It also would explain some of what Scott experienced. These photophores would direct that light to you, and because it's part of the nervous system also, they could potentially, that experience that you were talking about, validate what you were just saying. So by them having this ability, it would also allow them to communicate to each other, we believe. And studying, it's one of the best tools that we have now to study in, because we know when we're in their woods and we see the eye glow, that's where the Citonga are. We absolutely know that. And that's a big part of doing this type of research, is to be able to identify where they're at and be able to identify what they're doing with that. So in the deep sea creatures, they were using green and bluish eye glow is what they were primarily seeing, and then we would see some of the red. But I believe within this mechanism, you're going to see probably the whole primary color spectrum of colors. So we've seen more of we will see amber, we'll see white, we'll see red, blue, the greenish color. We see the gamut primarily, but the primary ones we see are the amber or yellowish colored white, and then we see the occasional red. And we believe from those experiences the red color is they're displaying some dissatisfaction where we're at or what we're doing. And a lot of times what we'll do, for instance, last night we were near what's called Citonga crossing, and they were probably getting ready to cross the road when we stopped in that location, and they were very patient to wait us out because they know we're not going to stay there all night. But they watched us, they observed us, and this is where we had a lot of those experiences. So it's important to keep that in context. There is science behind what we're actually seeing. And this is a way for us to move forward. The more we can potentially photograph these eyes, we could understand the mechanism in the sclera, whether it's just a few organs or if it's many of these organs that are operating. But it's absolutely fascinating to have that sort of science backing up what we've been seeing. And the fact that I'm able to talk about it now, and we've been doing this for many years, it was something that I really wanted to talk about. I wanted to also show some pictures that we had through Rez Squatching. And one of them is something that we had done, that Barry had taken this picture in, I think it was 2015. And I'll show it here, but it's a good example of what the eye glow and color that we're talking about here. And I'm hoping we can see it well. But if you look, there are two Citonga down in a ravine, and Barry had been communicating with them, and it got to a point where you were feeling uncomfortable about that because you were saying it was time to leave. But you could see one of them is kind of turning away, the smaller one. I think it's an adult and a male, or adult and a juvenile child. And one of them's turning away, and the other one, like he's making a step, and then the other one is facing the other way. But there's kind of a there's clearly different colored eyes, eye glow. And if you also look at that, because they're moving, the eye glow is kind of dispersed out. It's kind of spread around a little bit from their movement. So that shows illumination. That's not eye shine. And one thing that we see in nature from like the tapium of like raccoons, they're reflecting light from that shined on them. This is biologically created. They are creating this in a biological mechanism through that luciferin and luciferase. So hopefully you can kind of see that. I'm hoping the light allows you to see some of that. And maybe, so this was one example, and this to me is a significant contribution. This was 2015 that Barry took this. It was a video, and I just basically cropped it, you know, just took a picture of what I thought was a good example of it. Whoop. And that's what we have here. Another thing I wanted to talk about real quick, and then I didn't want to make my presentation too long, but I wanted to talk about another kind of phenomena that we see, that we documented here with Rez Squatching. And that is what I call bioelectric static, but it's people get shocked. People get an experience getting shocked. And so I want to show a visual of this so you can see. Now, if theoretically, if you have voice and frequency, so tone and frequency, you can use that as energy, and it creates electrical energy if you have the right frequency and volume of it. Let me show you this video. And in this video, it's shot at an area, and you'll see the frame stop for a second, just briefly. Right there. Did you see it? Did you guys see that? Let me go back again. Go back to the beginning here. Oops. Now the frame, it'll all of a sudden, it's like you'll see a light flash and it stops. That is, I believe, the mechanism that is knocking the cameras out. There are times we filmed, and our cameras stopped working, our batteries stopped working. Well, there it is in real time. And let me back this up. And so what I believe is occurring again is that they are utilizing, are you going to be able to see some of that? Maybe we'll see it flash, right? Oh. Did your camera just stop? Look at that. Did I just shut your camera down? Could this have zapped it?
Look at that.
It literally stopped at the same.
Okay, that's unusual.
That is absolutely unusual.
Look at this.
The screen just stopped as we were playing.
That big, that?
Could it have come through? Who knows? But Anyway,
Kind of
this,
stuff we've been dealing with.
this was an example again of when we were down by Cable Crossing, and there was a couple of them that had jumped into the Missouri River there, and let me see if I want to play. We were just getting ready to go down into the Missouri River. Two of them jumped in the river and swam, and we could hear them. And then one of them turned and charged at us and made it just a voluminous yell. But this happened just before that. I was filming some trees, and Barry had seen one he thought was swinging between some of these trees, and so I just took my FLIR and was looking at it. We have another video like this when Dr. Meldrum was here, and it also has this kind of bioelectric static. So I just wanted to show that so you could get an idea of what it looks when that flash happens. That's exactly what it is to experience. And some people get headaches. Some people have loss of some memory or time, and we've had this happen, and it's just one of those biological things that they can do. Yeah, there it is. So interesting. Okay, I can let you see it too. Interesting piece of information that we gathered, evidence that we gathered here at Rez Squatching. And so I wanted to just kind of share some of that, get a little bit of the science. I didn't want to make too long of a presentation today, but what I want to share the most that people get out of this is that experience and knowledge with Rez Squatching equals wisdom. Okay? So thank you very much. I appreciate everybody listening today. And
All right, good job. I want to again thank what two outstanding presentations today. We want to thank all the viewers out there who joined us on Facebook. Again, Rez Squatching Research community. Click join. We're open to anybody and everybody who wants to know more about the truth. Again, I can't say enough about our two presenters today. Did an outstanding job. I want to thank Sister Dee Dreadhorn for the chili and fry bread. Wish a very happy birthday to our team member, the one that acts as the glue, keeps us together, keeps our bellies full, keeps us organized that way, and that is Connie Gelsman. Happy birthday, Connie.
Thank you.
And for being with us. I also want to recognize co-founder Derek Webster for joining us today, and our media production crew, Ed Webster. Again, putting something together like this takes a lot of effort and teamwork. So again, I want to thank all those who helped make this possible today. Today will be the last day. We'll grind it out. We'll have one more night of wonderful squatching. Again, I thank you all for tuning in. Member Rez Squatching Research community. We love you. Thank you again for watching. God bless, and we'll see you next time.
Okay, it's a chili. Good. Good job, Doug. Good job, bud.
Thank you.
Brilliant.
That's
Did it-
informative.